What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his course. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigos.
Let's do this. Over in John chapter 8, verses 34 through 36. Jesus answered them and said, most surely I say to you, whoever commits sin is a slave, which means the word sin means misses the mark. Whoever misses the mark is a slave to sin. You're a slave to missing the mark. And a slave did not abide in the house forever, but a son abides forever. Therefore, if the son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. Now I said that because I think the hold that the NC2A has had on sports, and particularly men's sports, I think that slave master's hold has been freed. I think whatever relationship they were in bed with the NBA that told them that these players have to stay in, and I'm just talking about basketball right now, that these players have to stay in for a year before you can go into the league. That hold is gone. And as a result, you're starting to see just how bad it is affecting the Blue Bloods in the NC2A. The fact that Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke are on the bubble to making the tournament says a lot about these top 10 players, a bunch of them going to the G League to get paid versus staying in the NC2A. I believe that this effect is going to trickle down, and it's going to start to happen more than we think. I think it's going to be more widespread than what we think, because I think what's going to happen next is football is going to start to say, hey, the NFL is going to start to say, we don't want these players. They don't have to stay 2 years to come and play. Let them come out now. If they're ready, let them play now. Because baseball does it. You could be a pro straight out of high school in baseball. But football and basketball, you got to stay a certain amount of years that college can make money off of you before the NBA gets to make money off, or you get to make money from the NBA or NFL. And I think that whole slavery mentality that I think that the NC2As has had. I mean, but people can say, well, listen, they're getting a free education. They're not. They're not. You're making money. And so that's your way of of not having slavery by saying, I'm giving you a free education. But the reality of it is, I make you, like, let's say, how much Zion probably made them $1 million.
Oh, no, way more than that.
Off of ticket sales, paraphernalia, game, all that. He probably, so you give him what?
More like 50 million.
Yeah, more like 50 million. He probably made 50 million.
Okay, 50 million. But so you give me 50,000 to go to school. You didn't even give me 10%. So don't act like you get an education. No. I made you money. I paid for that education well over. What I did pay for the whole athletic department. So it's not, so don't throw that in my face that, well, you get a free education. I'm not getting a free education. You're making money off of it, and that's what you're sliding in. So you don't call this slavery. But it's the reality of it is what's going on. So go ahead, Will. I see you chomping at the bit to get into this.
I'm chomping at the bit. Hey, not only that, last time I checked, Zion doesn't have a college degree.
Right.
So he left the school without that education y'all said he was supposed to get. Right. And that happens to a lot of those athletes. They leave college after their eligibility and they never get their degree.
Right.
So if you're gonna say that you get a free education, well, why they don't got a degree then? Y'all got the money.
Right.
You got paid. So it should be mandatory. And I said this before in one of our earlier shows, that it should be something set aside in some type of fund that whenever you come back to college and finish your degree, then you get this money. And that's how it should be. It should be some money set aside from all that money you generated. Right. And whenever you come back, so that'll be an incentive for people to come finish college and get their college degree. The other thing, Skip, you notice that this is only the rule in sports where African-American men participate the most.
I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to put that out. Because it ain't in baseball. That in
hockey. They don't have that in baseball. They don't have that in nothing else. Only in football and basketball. Now, one point I do disagree with you on, and that is, I don't think that's going to change in football. And the reason why I don't think it's going to change in football is because there's a physical aspect to football that if you come out too young, like 18, 19, 20-year-olds playing in the NFL, that's scary to me. You know, they not developed enough. I think you have to be grown man to be in the NFL. So I think having you have to stay till you get a certain age for football might be in your physical best interest. But financially, it's definitely not in your best interest. It's in the best interest of the school. And this has been going on for a long time. And you notice this year, Jalen Johnson, he went to North Carolina, right? No, where'd he go? Duke. He went to Duke. Mm-hmm. And he seen what was happening and what was going down. Probably talked to some of them cats in the G League. And he was like, you know what? This was a mistake.
Right.
And he left school. What was his reason for leaving? He left school to get ready for the NBA draft. So all of a sudden, you know, he had an aha moment and he realized that it was in his personal and his family's personal best interest for him not to be at Duke getting that great free education that they were supposed to be giving him.
Yeah. And let me say this too. I think the NFL is going to have to do exactly what the NBA is, make some sort of G League for the NFL for these kids.
It's too expensive.
But they can turn around and buy out the SFL or whatever, the Canadian Football League. Let's partner with them and send these players there.
It's very expensive. Football is a very expensive sport. It's hard. Football is very expensive.
I understand. And that could be it. You may be right. It may be too expensive to do it. But something's going to have to be done. That, you know, because a lot of these kids may say, you know what? I'll just go play for the USFL or whatever. The Canadian
maybe the Arena League. Maybe they can play in the Arena League.
Whatever, I believe whatever they can do to make money and then have the NFL, you know, it'd be a pipeline to the NFL. I think they should start doing it because again, you got coaches making 7, 8, 10,000, 10 million a year. You making these schools 50, 60, 100 million a year, and you get penalized for selling your ring or trading your ring in for a tattoo. I made you $100 million and I can't even get a tattoo. But what you've given me, yeah. Something's gonna have to change. Go ahead, Tim. I know you want to get into this, man.
Super dude. Tag me in, coach. Tag me in. As was mentioned earlier, this NCAA, you know, caste system / exploitation system is an extension of, you know, yesteryear when you had African Americans brought over to this country and other places for the exchange of labor at very low or free cost with another entity being able to build treasure chests. This is nothing more than a modern day example of that. Quiet as kept, more African Americans were extracted from Africa and taken to Brazil and Latin America than even America. But the process holds true. Let me get some labor that can perform some level of income producing means, be it for production of goods or be it for entertainment, as the case is here, and we're going to reap the benefits from it. College had been exercising under this auspices of amateur athletics, which is why the players couldn't get paid, as well as this so-called free education that they received. Number one, as you guys have both laid out, the college education, if they do get it, is not commensurate or equal to in value the amount of money and revenues that these athletes brought to the school. You look at the graduation rates of all or many of the top schools. Let's take the top 300 schools of athletes from, let's go back to 1975 to now, you won't have 100% graduation rate. And so that holds, it rings kind of hollow. In addition to that, like you've just said, Pastor Skip, the players on scholarship can't work either. And so the money that they were looking to want to go out, take his girl to the movies, want to go out to get a bite to eat, he won't be able to do that unless his family is able to get him some means. And many of the players in these Division I programs, and others for that matter, don't necessarily come from households that have, a whole lot of discretionary income or money. In fact, many of them, but for the scholarship in football and basketball, would not probably be in college anyway. And so this opportunity for them to be able to reap the most benefit from their labor, I think is great. I don't know that it's going to spell the end of college athletics yet, because there's been, a legacy, a stronghold, if you will. And you do have some other players who are saying, you know what, I might not quite be elite or 5-star, but I might be 3-star, and I can go ahead and make my mark at one of these blue chip schools. So it will take probably some years of draining 5-star talent from blue chip schools and going to these alternative locations, be it the G League or this other, league that'll be formed by the Overtime Elite Pro, which will bring in those high school players, so they can avoid going to a prep school or going to college, to have this de facto league where they always get paid. That'll probably have to be sustained for a long time before the full impact could be felt by the major colleges. One last thing I will say is that most of the upstart leagues that have happened outside of the G League, many of them have gone belly up, particularly in the NFL. You've had the XFL, you had the USFL, and you had these others. So sustainability had been a challenge. However, as these professional leagues have demonstrated, if there is a way that they can make money off the talent, as well as give some sort of compensation to said talent, they will find a way. And like you both mentioned as well, those sports that have preeminence of African Americans, i.e. football and basketball, seem to be the ones that have these restrictive things where you have to be a certain age or have to have been in school for a certain period of time before you can go pro. But hockey doesn't have that. Baseball doesn't have that. Tennis doesn't have that, nor golf, the other major sports that we have, where individuals, if you show that you got talent, you can get on and get your bread. That ought to be across the board for these other sports as well. And the last thing I'll say is there is a scripture in the Bible that talks about the first shall be last and the last shall be first. There's been great exploitation that has taken place to Black people, ADOS, American descendants of slaves, in this country. And at some point in time, the tables have to turn and there has to be a recompense for that. I believe that we're in an age now where that is starting to happen. And those things that, ancestors had paid the price for, being able to reap the harvest from that, if they're descendants, I think is coming upon us now. There has been more millionaires made, it's been noted, last year of African Americans than the previous 20 years combined. And all of that wasn't even with sports. That's with e-commerce and other types of things. And so this sea change that we're seeing, while it's in this very early stages, the larval stages even, I think could be a tidal wave of what's to come if done right and done in a sustained fashion.
Pastor Skip, let me make a point about something that Tim said earlier about the amount of Africans who were taken to Central America and South America and all of those places. You guys have traveled before. And one of the things that just stuck in my head when we went to Jamaica, me and my wife went to Jamaica. You land in Jamaica, tropical land, beautiful weather, all kinds of things. And then you see this immense poverty that you've never seen in the United States. And then all of a sudden you driving, and you at this big resort that looked like heaven. It's like, how is all this poverty going on around here? And this resort is here just for the rich people around the world, the well-to-do people around the world, to come over there and enjoy the weather, the food, the beaches in these foreign countries. So even though we're talking about sports, that same thing happens throughout South and Central America when you start talking about the exploitation of the black people for tourism.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I was just looking up numbers. And according to Bloomberg, in 2019, NC2A men's basketball attorney will bring in $38 million to the Big Ten, $36 million to the ACC, $34 million to the SEC, and $23 million to the Big 12. Next year's pot, which is in 2020, the pot was $222 million. They got the split. So this is what the NC2A was trying to do. This is what Duke is missing. I'm missing that $38 million.
My cut of it.
Right, I'm missing my cut of this. And so this is where they're going, and that's why we didn't want y'all to do this to us. Because this is the money we're losing by you doing this to us. And this is what will make them make a change. Money makes everybody change.
Oh, for real. And in addition to that, Pastor Skip, could join to those stats you just kicked out. I think maybe a year or two ago, the NCAA March Madness, which was a phrase that was coined, and some of the other things that have been talked about, the NCAA has marketed and trademarked that. So you cannot use March Madness without giving them some royalties. So they're making money off of that, even though they weren't the ones probably that originated it. In addition to that, they signed whoever their carrier is. I believe it's CBS or whatever. They signed a multi-billion-dollar, multi-year contract for the exclusive rights to broadcast the tournament. So the pot that the teams get a chance to share, NCAA as an institution itself gets a chance to pocket these billions of dollars without paying, compensation to the players. And the quiet is kept, the NCAA, and I believe the NFL as well, these are nonprofit organizations.
Right.
So that says two things. Number one, there has been a marketing a blitz of telling you what a nonprofit organization is, which is they're not supposed to make profits. And the reality is that's not so. They are business enterprises. So as more people become educated and hip to the previous okie doke, I think there will be a lot more disruption, if you will, in the world of sports, because equity is the flavor of the day. And the Bible says that the laborer is worthy of his hire. So if he doing work, give him his bread.
Yeah. Let me say this too, Pastor Skip. You mentioned this earlier, and I just want to reiterate this. We talked about the Blue Bloods. If you looked at NCAA basketball for the majority of this year, the teams that was ranked number 1 and number 2 was Gonzaga and Baylor.
Right.
You tell me about getting them blue chip stars and where you in Gonzaga and Baylor. Now, really? And one thing that's obvious about both of those programs, they have players that have been in the programs for several years. They don't have one and dones at those schools.
Exactly. And that's where the Blue Bloods are losing it, because like my game changers, my season changers are not coming.
Yes.
So now I gotta re-up this thing, because that was one of the reasons why these Blue Bloods were such a draw. Kentucky was a draw because Coach Cal said, "Listen, I only want you to stay 1 year because I want you to get to the league, because I got to get the next player in here."
Yeah.
Same with Duke. Same with North Carolina. We know you only going to stay 1 year. At first, North Carolina didn't want no parts of that until they started losing. Then they're like, you know what? I got to get me some one and dones too if I want to stay relevant. Yeah. But I think we're at a place now where they're seeing either I'm going to have to reconstruct. I'm going to have to reconstruct how I do, because what you're seeing now is who the real coaches are. You see who the real coach is. Coach K really all that great of a coach when he can't coach 5 stars? Is he really that great of a coach now? Because you can't even make the tournament because you don't have any 5 stars. The cats that can make a difference in the game. So your X's and O's don't mean nothing with 3 stars. And so this is what you're seeing. You're seeing it's Coach Henderson really a great coach down in North Carolina. So all this is being seen that you may not be as cold as we thought you are. Now it was your school that I could come and I knew I could be a one and done and leave. But let me ask you a question. Will, you have brought up something that you said this is even going to even drop down to high school where they're starting to make adjustments. So tell me what you heard, Will.
Okay, let me say we already know about the G League and the adjustments they've made for people going to the G League and making money. The other thing that's going to happen this fall is going to be a professional high school league where high school seniors can forego their senior year and come and play in this league that will be high school seniors only, and it'll be like a professional league. Now, I haven't gotten all the details. I've just seen, them talk about it on my Sports Center and ESPN feed on my phone, and I haven't read the detail. But look for that this fall, and guess what? That's going to also water down the blue bloods, getting all those players and getting all that money. And I agree with you, Skip. I mean, was Phil Jackson really the greatest coach? Was Red Auerbach really the greatest coach? Or did they have the greatest players?
Right. Think about it. Think about this. Steve Kerr, all them years, championship after championship, best record, and never was coach of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when Phil Jackson went to New York, he's supposed to be the great Houdini. He couldn't do nothing when he went to New York because he didn't have the players, because players and free agents wouldn't go to New York. So you tell me what it is.
Yeah. So there's some places you just can't pull a rabbit out of your hat, bro.
Yes.
New York's one of them. So listen, I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I know needs to be had more, and as it evolves, we're going to see more of it. But let me say this, y'all. All-Star Weekend, NBA All-Star Weekend is coming up. And here's what we're looking at. Here's the starters, for those of you who don't know. On Team LeBron, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have, did he get Kawhi?
No, Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, right. Steph Curry and Kyrie, didn't he? No. Kevin Durant got Kyrie.
Yeah. He has Giannis, Curry, Luka Doncic, and the Joker.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin Durant got Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, Kawhi, and Kawhi. But guess who was the first pick for the draft? Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I'm going to put this out there now, and we can argue it all we want to. I believe Giannis is going to finally be the MVP of the All-Star Weekend. One, because LeBron don't want to play against him no more. LeBron's like, no. I want him first. And I even believe if LeBron had a choice, if LeBron wasn't on his team, I think he still, if LeBron wasn't on his team, I think he still would have pulled Giannis first. Because I think he's played against him enough that he says, you know what? I have never played with this cat. I want to play with him and see what we can do together. And so I believe I believe LeBron is going to feed that boy till he can't eat no more. He may have 30. He may easily have 30 this week. During the All-Star Weekend. I believe LeBron's going to be feeding him like crazy. So LeBron's team is Giannis, Curry, Luka, Joker, Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons, Chris Paul, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Sabonis, and Rudy Gobert. That's a squad. Now, over on Kevin Durant's team, he's got Kyrie, Joel, Kawhi, Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum, James Harden, Devin Booker, Zion Williamson, Zach LaVine, Julius Randolph, Nikola Vucevic, and Donovan Mitchell. I think LeBron got the best of that draft. I just my opinion, but we got a couple of minutes to talk about it. What are y'all thinking? Pastor Tim, I'll throw it to you first because we gave it to Will with that other one.
I think LeBron's team is almost unfair the talent stack that he has. And I would say on paper that they look like they are the best team. I will also say, though, the other squad, though, was looking at this as well, knowing that I think most of the polls that went out, I saw a couple of social media polls, and the one I took said that 80% of the people think that LeBron's team is better as well. Those guys on the other squad are, you know, grown men, alpha males even, and they're not going to take this laying down. Most of the last few All-Star games have been competitive. And so I think this is going to be competitive as well. I would have to give the edge to LeBron's team, and I would be surprised if Durant's team pulled it out. But, you know, you got NBA players doing their thing, so anything can happen. But I would have to go with LeBron's squad, and I don't think that there's a wrong choice to say or prediction that Giannis will get the MVP. He might. I'm looking at Luka Doncic, though. You know, he's been a great, great player. And is the truth, man. I mean, I like him as well. And anybody on that starting five can win the MVP. But Giannis, I think, might be the favorite, or Luka for the MVP, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm gonna say this. First of all, KD ain't playing,
Right.
and that's huge. If KD was playing, okay, it's a lot more competitive. And then Devin Booker is not playing. That's also huge. He has a knee problem, so he's a late scratch. And then the point guard for Utah, what's his name? Came from
Donovan Mitchell.
No, the one that came from Memphis.
Mike Conley.
Mike Conley is the replacement for Devin Booker. Okay, so that doesn't help their team defensively. But anyway, Giannis would have won the All-Star MVP the last 2 years had his team won. The only reason why he didn't win it is because his team didn't win. This year, like you guys are predicting, his team might win, and that's going to give him a better chance of winning. But he was the MVP in the All-Star game, the last 2 All-Star games.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, he is the only cat I've seen to block LeBron's fadeaway. The only cat I've ever seen do it. When LeBron go to that fadeaway, just count it. And in the All-Star game, Giannis blocked it. You know, but what's crazy to me again, if we look at who Giannis is, if you stack it up with what you think an All-Star is or MVP is, he's not that. But for some reason, he is one of the most valuable cats on most of the courts that he's on. You know, and I think it's because what he's able to do so much more with so much less. Because let's just be honest. What does he really have as a sidekick other than sort of Chris Middleton? And he's able to make it, you know, have these great records. He's able to make it into the playoffs every year, but he don't really have any help. And then come playoffs, everybody goes, okay, well, we're going to see if somebody else can beat us.
Yeah. I think what happens with Giannis is he has a unusual level of superior athleticism. And similar to other players who were dominant because of their athleticism, the playoffs, it's not just about your athleticism, it's about your skill sets. So what happens is that if you can have a lot of athleticism and that can act as a mask to your lack of skills. You look at people like, you know, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille wasn't super skilled. He just was a physically imposing guy who had athleticism. Wilt Chamberlain, all the stats he had, averaged 50 points in a season, averaged 25 rebounds that same season, was low-key a high jumper in college.
Right.
Athlete, but not necessarily skilled. So Giannis, everybody that plays with him, plays against him, like you mentioned, LeBron's been playing against him in the All-Star games, sees this athleticism and is like, oh my goodness, this dude is a freak of nature, if you will.
Meet us back here, same time next week, same bad time, same bad channel. Joy 1340 AM, 98.7 FM, also on Facebook and YouTube. Until next week, thank you for tuning in for the #1 faith-based talk show in the entire world, Into the Sport.